what actually separates a player who survives their first night from someone who just gets to watch their stuff despawn? Armor, that's it. That's the whole answer. And yeah, most people know the basics. Diamond good, leather bad, netherite if you're patient enough to find ancient debris without losing your mind, but there's a whole side of Minecraft's armor system that barely gets talked about. Horse armor that runs on completely different rules from everything else. A pumpkin that technically belongs in your helmet slot. A piece of so-called armor that gives you literally 0 protection points and is somehow the most interesting thing on this entire list. We're going through all of it today. Every armor set, every weird edge case, every mechanic that actually matters. Let's get into it. Helmet. The helmet, the most visible piece of armor in the game and somehow the one people think about the least when they're actually gearing up. Like, people will genuinely spend an hour theory crafting their chestplate enchantments and then just slap whatever helmet they found in a dungeon chest onto their head without a second thought. Which, honestly, is a mistake because the helmet slot is doing more interesting work than most players give it credit for. So let's start with the basics. The material progression for helmets runs leather, chainmail, iron, gold, diamond, netherite. Each tier improves your armor points and your durability, with the jump from iron to diamond being the most significant in practical terms. Leather gives you 1 armor point, iron gives 2. Diamond and netherite both sit at 3. The difference between diamond and netherite at the helmet level isn't the armor point value, it's the durability, the knockback resistance that all netherite armor passively provides, and the fact that netherite items don't burn in lava. Yeah, that last one has saved entire inventories. Deeply personal experience there. Chainmail is the weird one in the progression, because you can't actually craft it in survival without commands. It comes from trading with armorer villagers or looting it from mobs that spawn wearing it. Statistically, it sits between iron and gold in terms of armor points, which makes it this awkward middle tier that most players skip entirely. It looks cool though. That counts for something. Now the enchantments are where helmets actually get genuinely interesting, because 2 of the most useful water-related enchantments in the game are helmet exclusive: Aqua Affinity and Respiration. And a lot of players, even experienced ones, mix these 2 up or don't fully understand the distinction between them. Basically, Respiration extends your underwater breath bar. Each level adds about 15 seconds to how long you can breathe before the drowning damage kicks in. Level 3 gives you around 60 total seconds underwater, which is a meaningful difference from the default 15. Good enchantment, straightforward utility. Aqua Affinity is completely different and specifically solves a problem that a lot of players don't even realize is happening. When you're underwater and you try to mine blocks, there's a hidden speed penalty that slows your mining down significantly. Aqua Affinity removes that penalty entirely. Full surface level mining speed applied underwater. 1 level, no upgrades needed, just equip it and the problem disappears. For ocean monument raids, underwater base building, or any situation where you're spending extended time mining below the waterline, Aqua Affinity is genuinely essential. I mean, they're both useful, they just do completely different things, and having both on the same helmet is a very reasonable goal. Then there's the gold helmet situation, which is one of those Minecraft mechanics that sounds ridiculous until you actually understand the logic behind it. Gold armor is, by raw numbers, terrible. Lowest durability of any metal tier, worse armor point values than iron despite being a harder material to obtain in meaningful quantities. Wearing a full set of gold armor into a fight is not a strategy, but wearing a single gold helmet into a piglin-populated area, that's actually smart. Piglins won't attack you as long as you're wearing at least 1 piece of gold armor, and the cheapest piece to sacrifice to that mechanic is the helmet. Your chestplate stays diamond, your leggings stay diamond, your boots stay diamond, and your head sports a gold helmet that's essentially functioning as diplomatic credentials. The worst armor material in the game pulling double duty as a social pass. Yeah, I find that genuinely funny. And then there's the turtle shell, which is the most underrated helmet in the game by a significant margin, and I will not be taking questions on that. You craft it from 5 scutes, which baby turtles drop when they grow into adults. 5 scutes, helmet slot, done. What you get is a helmet that automatically grants water breathing as a status effect while you're wearing it, with no enchantment required. It also has slightly better durability than an iron helmet, which means early to mid-game, before you've hit diamond or gone anywhere near ancient debris, the turtle shell is a legitimately excellent option. It doesn't show up in tutorials, it doesn't come up in the standard gear progression conversation. But if you're doing ocean content, exploring shipwrecks, hunting for buried treasure, or building anything underwater, strapping a turtle shell to your head before you even think about diamond is a completely valid play. Honestly, the turtle shell deserves way more recognition than it gets. Chestplate? If you could only wear one piece of armor, it would be the chestplate. Not a close call. The chestplate covers your torso, which represents the largest hit zone on your character model, and it carries the highest armor point value of any single piece across every material tier. Iron chestplate puts you at 6 armor points. Diamond and netherite both sit at 8. When you're doing the math on a full armor set and figuring out where your points are coming from, the chestplate is doing by far the heaviest lifting. Everything else is important, but the chestplate is the load-bearing wall of your defensive setup. Netherite chestplate specifically sits at the top of the gear hierarchy for a reason. 8 armor points, passive knockback resistance, lava immunity for the item itself, and the peace of mind that comes with knowing your most important armor piece isn't going to get destroyed if you accidentally walk into a fire source. The knockback resistance feels minor until you're in a situation where it isn't. PvP fights where maintaining your position matters. Mob swarms where getting knocked into a corner can turn into a chain death. Nether exploration where getting bumped off a ledge by a gassed fireball has real consequences. Yeah, the passive resistance adds up in ways that don't show up in the stat sheet, but the thing that makes the chestplate slot genuinely complicated in late game is a piece of equipment that isn't armor at all, the Elytra. It occupies the chestplate slot and gives you exactly 0 armor points in exchange for the ability to glide and fly. So, at some point, every late game survival player faces the same decision: 8 armor points and full torso protection, or flight. And the honest answer is that most people choose flight and just accept walking around with their entire torso exposed to whatever the world throws at them, which is a completely wild trade when you say it out loud, and yet here we are. We'll get into the Elytra properly later, but that conflict is worth keeping in mind as the context for why the chestplate slot matters so much. Enchantment-wise, the chestplate takes the standard protection suite: protection, blast protection, fire protection, projectile protection. Protection IV is the go-to for general play because it covers all damage types at a flat rate. The specialized protections offer higher reduction against their specific damage type, but leave you more exposed to everything else. For most players, Protection IV is the right answer. Mending and Unbreaking 3 are essentially mandatory for any long-term chestplate. You're not letting your best armor piece degrade into nothing. Thorns is the enchantment that generates the most debate around the chestplate slot. The idea is that attackers who hit you take reflected damage. That's satisfying. That's good for PvP, good for mob crowd control, genuinely fun to have per OC. The downside is that every time Thorns activates, it costs your armor durability. Thorns and Mending together can offset this, but it requires a reliable XP source and some active maintenance. Sadly, nothing about Thorns is free. Every point of damage you reflect comes out of your armor's lifespan, and that's a real consideration before you commit to the enchantment. The build most experienced players settle on is Protection 4, Mending, Unbreaking 3, with Thorns as the optional addition for anyone leaning into PvP. That's the core. That's the build. The chestplate is the most important armor piece in the game, and treating it that way is just good survival practice. Leggings. Leggings. Not the flashiest piece. Not the one anyone gets excited about, but the second highest armor value in the set, and the piece that's quietly been given one of the most interesting exclusive enchantments in the game. Skip them and you'll feel the gap immediately. Diamond leggings put you at 6 armor points. Netherite keeps it at 6, but adds the knockback resistance and material durability that comes with all netherite armor. Across the full set, leggings are consistently the second biggest defensive contributor behind the chestplate, and that matters. What most players don't know, or don't think about, is that leggings have an exclusive enchantment called Swift Sneak. 3 levels, and each level increases your movement speed while sneaking. At level 3, you're moving at nearly full walking speed in sneak mode. For builders working in tight spaces, that's a massive quality of life improvement. For cave explorers trying to navigate around mob spawners without triggering everything in the room, it's genuinely tactical. For anyone building elaborate redstone setups where precision movement matters, Swift Sneak changes the entire experience of working in those environments. The problem is how you get it. Basically, Swift Sneak cannot be obtained from an enchanting table. You can't get it from a librarian villager no matter how many times you reset their trades. You can't find it through normal enchanting progression at all. The only way to get Swift Sneak is by finding it in a loot chest inside an ancient city. That's it. Ancient city or nothing. No enchanting table, no trading hall, no alternative source. Just the single most terrifying biome in the game, guarded by the Warden, which is one of the strongest mobs ever added to Minecraft, with no natural light and a detection system that responds to both movement and sound. Yeah. Mojang took one of the most useful movement enchantments in the game and locked it behind a location specifically designed to punish you for moving, which is either brilliant game design or a personal attack, depending on your perspective. The ancient city loot is genuinely worth the trip if you prepare properly. Potions, good armor, a solid escape plan, and ideally no skulk shriekers going off more than twice. But calling it casual content would be generous. Getting Swift Sneak 3 onto your leggings is an achievement in survival, not just a gear upgrade. Leather leggings are also worth mentioning for early game context. 2 armor points, quick to craft, and in a pinch before you've hit iron, they provide meaningful coverage for your legs. The full leather set isn't glamorous, but the leggings specifically are a worthwhile early craft that a lot of new players skip in favor of rushing iron. The full armor set bonus in terms of protection accumulates faster than most players expect, and leggings are a core part of that math from day one. Honestly, if you're a sneaky builder or an explorer type, getting to an ancient city specifically for Swift Sneak 3 is worth planning an expedition around. That enchantment genuinely changes how you interact with the game. The leggings slot earned its own identity with that addition. Quick pause. If you've been watching this and you're not subscribed yet, genuinely, what are you doing? It's free, it takes half a second, and it actually helps the channel more than most people realize. Hit subscribe and let's keep going. Boots. Boots have the lowest armor point contribution of any piece in a full set, and somehow they carry some of the most game-changing enchantments available to any armor slot. The gap between what boots contribute statistically and what they actually do for your survival is larger here than anywhere else, and it makes the boots slot one of the most important to get right. Start with the armor values. Leather boots give 1 point, iron gives 2. Diamond and netherite both sit at 3. That's the floor of what boots are doing defensively. But the enchantment options are where boots genuinely earn their place in your setup, starting with the one that most experienced players would argue is the single most important enchantment in the entire game for general survival play: Feather Falling. Feather Falling reduces fall damage, 4 levels, and at level 4 it reduces incoming fall damage by 48%. That is an enormous number. Nearly half of all fall damage gone. In a game where you're constantly building upward, mining downward, navigating cliff edges, jumping between platforms, and generally existing in a world full of height differentials and open pits, fall damage is one of the most common causes of death for experienced players. Not mobs, not lava, not suffocation, falling. Feather Falling I4 does not make you immune to fall damage, but it turns most survivable falls into trivially survivable falls, and it turns many fatal falls into ones you walk away from. Yeah, I have specific memories of situations where Feather Falling I4 was the difference. Specific painful memories of situations before I had it. Then there's the Depth Strider versus Frostwalker decision, which is one of the most interesting mutually exclusive choices in the enchantment system because both options are legitimately useful and they appeal to fundamentally different playstyles. Depth Strider increases your movement speed through water. Level 3 brings you to full walking speed while swimming, which transforms ocean exploration from a slow, tedious experience into something genuinely manageable. If you spend any real time in the ocean biome, hunting shipwrecks, looting ocean monuments, building underwater, Depth Strider 3 is a significant quality of life enchantment. Frostwalker is the alternative, and it does something completely different. It creates frosted ice beneath your feet as you walk across water, letting you run across the surface of any water body like it's solid ground. That has obvious utility for ocean crossing, river navigation, and certain combat situations. But it also has creative applications that Depth Strider doesn't, because frosted ice has its own properties as a block. The choice between them really does say something about how you play. Ocean Explorer or Overland Traveler. Both are valid. You can only pick one. Soul Speed is the enchantment that most people forget exists entirely, which is a shame because it's genuinely useful in the right context. Soul Sand and Soul Soil, which are the primary ground materials in large parts of the Nether, normally slow you down significantly. Soul Speed negates that penalty and lets you sprint across them at nearly full speed. Level 3 makes a nether travel through soul sand valleys dramatically faster than it would otherwise be. The downside is that it burns your boot's durability while it's active, so you need mending or regular repairs to maintain it, and you can only get it from Bastion remnant chests or through piglin bartering, neither of which is a quick afternoon trip. But if you're doing a lot of nether navigation, soul speed is worth going out of your way to find. Feather Falling, Depth Strider, or Frostwalker depending on your preference, mending, unbreaking 3. That's the boot setup most players land on. Low armor points, high actual impact, never underestimate the boot slot. Horse armor. Horse armor doesn't get talked about enough, and honestly, once you actually look at how it works, that's a little surprising, because it operates on completely different rules from every other armor type on this list. The tier system for horse armor is leather, iron, gold, and diamond. Same material names as player armor, but the similarities mostly end there. The most important thing to understand right away is that leather horse armor is the only craftable type. The rest, iron, gold, and diamond, you find in loot chests, dungeons, temples, strongholds, nether fortresses, that kind of thing. You're not sitting at a crafting table making a diamond horse armor from scratch. You're finding it, or you're leaving your horse unprotected. Sadly, there's no in-between option for the higher tiers. The protection values scale in a way that's worth knowing. Leather gives your horse 3 armor points, iron gives 5, gold gives 7, diamond hits 11. And for context, that diamond horse armor number is a solid defensive value that translates to real protection when your horse is taking hits from hostile mobs or getting caught in an explosion. It matters. Your horse has its own health pool, and while horse armor doesn't affect HP, it does affect how quickly that health pool gets depleted in dangerous situations. Now here's the detail that surprises most people when they first hear it. Horse armor has no durability. It does not break, ever. You put a diamond horse armor on your horse, and it stays at full condition until you physically remove it. No repairs, no degradation, no maintenance loop. Just permanent protection for as long as your horse is wearing it. Yeah, compared to every other armor mechanic in the game, that's a pretty significant difference. Leather horse armor is worth its own mention because it's the only dyeable type. Same mechanic as leather player armor. You can apply any dye color, combine dyes for custom shades, and create a horse that is, frankly, more color coordinated than most players are. That's either charming or a sign that you're spending too much time on aesthetics. But in a game where self-expression is half the point, dyeable horse armor is a feature that deserves more appreciation than it gets. Your horse can match your base color scheme. Your horse can have a full aesthetic identity. Your horse can look better than you. If you're regularly using horses for travel and exploration, hunting down diamond horse armor is genuinely worth the effort. It's a permanent upgrade that requires 0 ongoing maintenance. That's a good deal. Nautilus armor. Okay, so this one's a little different. Nautilus armor isn't something most players have ever worn or even thought about in an armor context at all. The Nautilus shell is mostly known as one of the 8 ingredients needed to craft a conduit, which is the underwater utility block that grants a powerful status effect to nearby players. For most people, that's the entire life cycle of a Nautilus shell. Find it, save it for the conduit, done. But with the 1.20 update for both Java and Bedrock, Mojang added the armor trim system, and that changed the conversation around Nautilus in a meaningful way. Basically, armor trims are a customization mechanic that lets you apply decorative patterns and colors to any armor piece using a smithing table. The system requires 2 things beyond the armor itself: a trim template, which determines the pattern, and a trim material, which determines the color. The combination of those 2 elements creates a unique look that gets applied permanently to the armor piece, and the result is a visual customization system with a genuinely impressive range of possible outputs. The Nautilus trim template applies a pattern inspired by the Nautilus shell shape, and it looks distinctive in a way that stands out from some of the more generic trim designs. Getting it requires either fishing or taking on an Elder Guardian, which is the mini-boss mob that guards ocean monuments. Elder Guardians are not pushovers. They apply mining fatigue, hit hard, and the ocean monument itself is full of regular guardians on top of the 3 Elder Guardians inside. Going in for a Nautilus trim isn't a casual errand, but it's more accessible than some of the rarer trim templates, which are locked behind end cities or other late-game locations. There are 16 total armor trim templates in the game, each with their own source location and visual pattern. The material used for the trim determines the color, and you can use a wide range of materials including amethyst, copper, emerald, gold, iron, lapis, netherite, quartz, redstone, and others. Each material produces a different color on the trim, which means the number of possible trim combinations across a full 4-piece armor set runs into the hundreds. Yeah, someone did the math on the total possible combinations, and the number is genuinely staggering. Here's the thing that matters most about armor trims. They are completely cosmetic. Zero stat changes. Your armor performs identically with or without a trim applied. The trim changes appearance and nothing else. Which means for the first time in Minecraft's armor system, there's a genuine fashion mechanic that exists purely for self-expression, completely decoupled from the optimization loop. You're not grinding trim templates because they make you stronger. You're grinding them because you want to look a specific way. And honestly, that's a completely legitimate reason to play. The fact that Minecraft has had this level of visual customization for armor since 1.20 and it still doesn't come up in most armor discussions is wild to me. It doesn't make you stronger, but it does make you look better. And sometimes that's enough. Also, quick one. Channel membership is open if you want to support what we're building here. Members get early access to videos, member-only posts, and a few other things being added over time. It genuinely helps keep this kind of content coming, and every single person who's joined has made a real difference. Links below. Okay, wolf armor. For real this time. Wolf armor. If you've ever watched your wolf get one-shot by a skeleton on the way back from a mining trip, this section is for you. Wolf armor was added in Java Edition 1.2, 1, the Tricky Trials update, and it represents something the Minecraft community had been quietly asking for since wolves were first introduced. Wolves are fantastic companions in theory. Loyal, willing to fight anything that looks at you aggressively, always following you into situations they absolutely should not be in. In practice, they have historically been somewhat fragile. Wolf armor is Mojang's acknowledgement of that problem and their solution to it. The material for wolf armor is armadillo scooties, dropped by armadillos, which are a mob introduced alongside wolf armor in the same update. Armadillos spawn naturally in savanna and badlands biomes, and they have a passive behavior where they roll into a shell when threatened. They drop scutes periodically on their own, but you can also get scutes faster by using a brush on them. The scute farming process is genuinely low stress compared to most resource gathering in the game. Armadillos are calm, they're not threatening, and brushing them regularly while you do other things nearby is an easy passive activity. 6 scutes gets you 1 piece of wolf armor, and what that wolf armor gives your companion is 11 armor points. For context, that's equivalent to wearing a full set of iron armor as a player in terms of total protection. Yeah, that's not a minor upgrade. Your wolf goes from being a companion that can realistically die to a single skeleton volley to one that can take sustained damage and survive encounters that previously would have been a death sentence. Bringing a wolf along on a cave expedition used to feel like a liability more often than an asset. Now it's a legitimate tactical decision with real upside. The armor has a durability of 64 points and can be repaired using additional armadillo scutes at an anvil, so unlike horse armor's no durability setup, wolf armor requires ongoing maintenance. It's a small resource investment to keep it functional, but it creates a satisfying loop where your relationship with armadillos has long-term value beyond the initial craft. You need them regularly, which means keeping them around or knowing where to find them becomes part of your mid to late game planning. Wolf armor is also deable, following the same mechanic as leather player armor and leather horse armor. Any of the 16 standard dye colors can be applied, which means your wolf can have a coordinated color scheme that matches your own armor or your base's aesthetic. I mean, one tier of wolf armor is a bit limiting when you compare it to the full material progression for player armor. There's no iron wolf armor, no diamond wolf armor, no netherite wolf armor, just the one type from armadillo scutes. For a first implementation of the mechanic, that makes sense, but the progression potential for future updates is obvious. Only tamed wolves can wear the armor. Wild wolves are not accepting anything from you regardless of how many scutes you're holding. But your loyal companion, the one that's been following you around and getting underfoot near your crafting table for the last 3 in-game weeks, fully protected. It took a while to get here, but wolves are finally worth bringing along. Genuinely. Elytra. The Elytra isn't armor. It gives you 0 protection, 0 defense points, and it gradually falls apart every time you use it. And it is the single most game-changing item that has ever occupied the chestplate slot, and one of the most impactful additions in Minecraft's history full stop. So why would anyone trade their chestplate, the highest value armor piece in the entire set, the one doing the most defensive work in every encounter, for something that offers absolutely nothing in terms of protection? Flight. That's the entire trade. And for the vast majority of late-game survival players, it's a trade they make and don't look back from. Getting the Elytra is a journey in itself. You defeat the Ender Dragon, you activate one of the end gateways that appear after the fight. You travel out to the Outer End Islands, which are the fragmented floating landmasses that exist far from the main End Island. Out there, you find End Cities, which are tall, spire-like structures with valuable loot. Attached to some End Cities, floating just off the side, are End Ships. And inside those End Ships, held in an item frame, is a single Elytra. That's the only natural way to obtain one in vanilla Minecraft. No crafting recipe, no trading, no alternative acquisition path. One per ship, one ship per city, and End Cities themselves require exploration and navigation to find. Basically, you earn the Elytra through a complete late-game progression sequence. It's not handed to you. The mechanics are genuinely elegant in how they work. You reach sufficient height, you jump, and you deploy the wings mid-air to begin gliding. Gravity affects your glide, meaning you're naturally descending unless you angle upward, and angling upward bleeds your speed. The fundamental tension of Elytra flight is managing speed and altitude simultaneously. Firework rockets solve the altitude problem by providing direct boosts that push you upward and accelerate you significantly. With a supply of fireworks, the Elytra transitions from a gliding tool into a full flight system. Fast, directional, capable of covering enormous horizontal distances at speeds that nothing else in the base game approaches. The impact on Minecraft culture and server design is hard to overstate. Before the Elytra existed, travel on large multiplayer servers was logistically complicated. Nether highways, horse networks, boat routes. Getting from one point to another was a real investment of time and planning. After the Elytra became available, the entire map collapsed in terms of effective travel time. End-to-end journeys that previously took significant effort became quick trips. That changed how economies work on servers, how bases get built in relation to each other, how PvP conflicts play out, how speedruns are structured. A single item reshaped the entire meta of the game across every category of play. Yeah, that's a lot of impact for something that doesn't even protect you. Durability is 432 points, and each second of active gliding costs 1 durability point. A raw, unenchanted Elytra lasts roughly 7 minutes of continuous flight before it breaks. Which sounds workable until you realize that 7 minutes of Elytra travel is a routine session, not a long one. Mending is the answer, and it's essentially mandatory for any Elytra you intend to use long-term. Mending repairs 2 durability per XP point absorbed, and combined with a reliable XP farm, an Elytra with Mending becomes functionally permanent. Unbreaking 3 is the other essential enchantment, reducing the rate of durability loss. Those two together and your Elytra is a permanent fixture of your kit rather than a consumable resource. Phantom membranes connect to this in an interesting way. Phantoms spawn when you haven't slept for 3 or more consecutive in-game days, and they drop phantom membranes, which can repair an Elytra at an anvil. So the game creates a loop where neglecting to sleep summons flying mobs that drop the repair material for your flying item. That's a neat design detail. The Elytra doesn't protect you. It just makes you feel like you own the world. And in Minecraft, that might be exactly the same thing. Carved pumpkin, so you can put a pumpkin on your head. That's a thing, and it's actually more useful than it sounds, which is a sentence I didn't expect to be writing when I first thought about this entry. The carved pumpkin equips in the helmet slot. It gives you 0 armor points. Absolutely none. From a pure defensive standpoint, it is the least effective thing you could put in that slot. A leather helmet gives you 1 armor point. A carved pumpkin gives you nothing, but it does one specific thing that no actual helmet in the game does, and that one thing is worth talking about. Wearing a carved pumpkin prevents Endermen from becoming hostile when you look directly at them. That's the mechanic. Under normal circumstances, making eye contact with an Enderman triggers aggressive behavior. They lock onto you, teleport toward you, and the whole situation escalates in ways that can go badly fast, especially if you're in the end dimension, surrounded by dozens of them. With a carved pumpkin on your head, that entire mechanic is suppressed. Full eye contact with an Enderman, 0 response. You can stare directly at one, and nothing happens. For early end dimension navigation, this is genuinely practical. The main end island before the dragon fight is covered in Endermen, and if you're not fully geared or you're making your first trip out there, avoiding accidental aggression from Endermen while simultaneously managing the dragon is a real concern. The carved pumpkin removes that concern entirely for 0 resource cost beyond a pumpkin and a pair of shears. On the outer end islands during end city exploration, same thing applies. You can navigate through dense Enderman populations without triggering a chain reaction of aggressive mobs. The trade-off is the overlay. Wearing a carved pumpkin applies a pumpkin vision effect to your entire screen that looks exactly like what you'd expect staring through a carved pumpkin to look like. Your peripheral vision is significantly reduced, there's a blurring effect around the edges, and it's disorienting until you remove it. For extended wear, it's genuinely annoying. The widely used solution is a resource pack that removes the visual overlay while keeping the Enderman mechanic fully functional. That fix is widely available, widely used, and the kind of practical community solution that Minecraft players have always been good at finding. Getting a carved pumpkin is about as simple as any item acquisition gets. Find a naturally grown pumpkin, use shears on it, equip it. No crafting table, no additional materials, no progression requirements. And unlike most of the items on this list, it has no durability. It doesn't wear out, it doesn't break. It just sits there on your head, confusing the Enderman, for as long as you choose to wear it. I mean, it's a pumpkin. Durability was never really in the conversation. 0 armor. One very specific job. Does that job perfectly? Respect the pumpkin. Player heads. Player heads are the most creative thing in Minecraft's entire armor system, and almost no one discusses them in that context, which is a genuine oversight because what the community has built around this mechanic is one of the more impressive things in Minecraft's history. Like the carved pumpkin, a player head equips in the helmet slot. And like the carved pumpkin, it gives you 0 armor points. No protection, no stat changes, no combat benefit of any kind. What it gives you instead is identity. A player head displays the skin of the player it belongs to, meaning whoever is wearing that head is visually representing that player's character. And in Java Edition specifically, the texture is dynamic. If the player whose head you're wearing changes their skin, the head changes with it. It updates automatically, tied to the player's UID. Yeah, that detail catches people off guard consistently when they first hear it. Obtaining a player head in legitimate survival play is not a casual process. The drop condition is specific. A player has to be killed by a charged creeper explosion. A charged creeper is a regular creeper that has been struck by lightning, which gives it a much larger explosion radius and significantly more damage. Getting a charged creeper to kill a specific target without just obliterating everything else in the vicinity requires real setup. You need lightning, you need a creeper, you need the creeper to be struck, and you need the target to be close enough to the explosion. In legitimate survival, player heads function as rare trophies, proof of a specific engineered situation. If someone has your head, they worked for it. And that's every armor set. Helmets doing more interesting work than people give them credit for. The chestplate carrying the defensive load. Leggings sitting quietly with one of the rarest enchantments in the game. Boots punching way above their armor point weight class. Horse armor running on completely different rules from everything else. Nautilus trims giving the fashion-conscious player something to actually work toward. Wolf armor finally making wolves worth bringing along. The Elytra being the most impactful non-armor armor item in the game. A pumpkin that stops Endermen from looking at you aggressively. And player heads which give you nothing defensively and somehow ended up being the most interesting thing on the entire list. Join the Discord. Links in the description. We're building the community from the ground up right now, and the first 50 people to join get a founder role that's never opening again. That role's gonna come with perks down the line, both in the Discord and for our future Minecraft SMP. Come hang out, or don't. But then you'll never find out what armor trim we're arguing about this week.